up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, my name's Derek and I am a member of the Plus Platoon. The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed so you will never miss a moment. Now, I'm not alone in this one, so let's bring in the rest of the platoon, starting with Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening? Besides on mute.
Good. Oh, there I am. I am so good. I am ready to talk all things hockey and superheroes.
Sounds great. Next, we're going to bring in Rebecca. Rebecca, how you doing over there?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing very, very well. The fourth member of the team is Peter. Pete, how you doing?
Here I am. Hey, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Good.
And our fifth and just as valuable member of the team is Sam. Sam, how are you this evening?
I'm good. Last but certainly not least.
Oh, definitely not least. Nobody's least here. No, there's no
not
least
at
here.
all. There is not.
So
That's right.
okay. Well, we're going to start out like we always do with some Disney Plus news. Kate, what's the news this week?
Oh, yeah. Disney Plus news. It is time, everybody. So this week, we have Loki premiering on Wednesday, but don't worry, we're going to talk all about that at the end of the episode. But Loki does come out next Wednesday. We also have Luca, which is a Pixar feature film that is coming out on, it's premiering on June 18th, but it is not part of Disney Plus Premium. So that's really exciting. We also have Marvel's What If, which is going to premiere on August 6th. Marvel's What If is basically what if things in the movies hadn't gone the way that they did? What would be different? We're really excited about that. And lastly, we have the Hawkeye series. It's finished editing, which means it is going to premiere December of 2021. More Marvel. We love it. Back to you, my friend.
Some of us love it more than others. But speaking of which, this week we are talking about the Loki prequel that they filmed all the way back in 2012. It is the original Avengers. And as part of this, we want to know what made Hawkeye hit his target. In other words, what worked in this show? Rebecca, what worked and what made Hawkeye hit his target in this movie?
I got 3 things for you. Tom Hiddleston, Chris Evans, and Liam Hemsworth. Pete, what do you think? No. To me, there's really nothing that didn't work. I mean, to me, the whole movie is so fantastic. It's funny now that I've seen all of the Avenger movies and even the series afterwards, how much the dynamic has grown between each of the characters. It was really interesting to see Thor's dynamic and his humor not really shine through because they haven't developed that part of the character yet. I thought that it was funny that we kind of already had a battle between who is strongest between Thor and Hulk, and like that kind of showed it, and that is huge in, the last Thor movie and stuff. And to me, there wasn't anything that didn't work. I loved this movie. I think that it was an amazing intro to get ready for Loki. I'm excited. I love all those 3 men, but mostly Tom Hiddleston. He is, I think, an amazing actor. He plays the character so well. When he first shows up and he's just like smiling from the top, and it's like this ominous, and you realize that he is this evil villain, but then, as you watch the rest of the movies, he has this soft side for his brother and for Asgard and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed all of it. Pete, what do you really think?
It was interesting. I've seen this movie a number of times, but this is the first time I've seen it in, I don't know, five or 6 years. And it still holds up pretty well. I mean, you think about, wasn't that long ago, 9 years ago or whatever, but that was before everybody was trying to do these cinematic universes, right? I mean, this was really a new thing to do. Hey, we got this character and this character and this character all had their own movies, and now we're putting them all in one movie. And it really worked in terms of putting these characters together. And sorry, my cat is getting a little antsy there. Putting these characters together and being able to have them work off each other and have that initial dynamic where they're not really getting along all that well. And that kind of continues through, right? I mean, they continue to have those problems. But I particularly got to give it to... now I can't think of his name, but the actor that plays Bruce Banner, he came in. Mark Ruffalo, yeah. He came in and he was really the only one that hadn't been in a movie already. And he kind of steals the movie as Bruce Banner without turning into the Hulk for the first, hour and a half of it. So I really, I don't know about steal the movie, but he really is a highlight of the movie. I like the way he plays his character. So, I don't know. It still holds up to me, but what do you think, Sam?
I just love this movie, you guys. This is like, I have to say, Black Panther and the Avengers are my two favorite MCU movies, like, of all time. And maybe Black Panther edges out just a little bit, but it's a really close call. This is such a great cast. It's such a great story. It's such a great villain, as Rebecca said. Tom Hiddleston as Loki is delightfully evil, evil in all the best ways, and adorable when doing it. You got Cap, you got Chris Evans. What more can you really ask for? You have comedy in this movie. One of my favorite scenes is when Hulk just smashes Thor with his fist when they're just standing there during one of the fight scenes towards the end of the movie. You have the hilarious setting of them all eating shawarma at the very end of movie after the credits scene, where there's no dialogue. They're just sitting in a shawarma restaurant eating, and you hear their chewing sounds. It's just brilliant. Like I honestly, I can't even, like Rebecca said, it's hard to come up with anything that is not wonderful about this movie, because it's just so good. And the dynamic between all of these characters is awesome. And I have to give a shout out for Black Widow in this movie, because she is such a wonderful character. When she gets that phone call and she's tied in the chair and she's, I'm in the middle of an interrogation, she says to Nick Fury, and the Russian mobster guy's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? But she's getting everything out of the guy who thinks he's interrogating her. And then the same thing happens with her with Loki later, when Loki's in the prison cell that's meant for Hulk. And she acts like he's really getting to her when he's, bringing up her past misdeeds and how she's killed people and how there's red on her ledger. And, and then she gets the goods out of him and realizes what he's really there is trying to sow disagreement between the Avengers and get the Hulk to come out. And so it's a really amazing scene, and just amazing to see that character's development throughout that movie. So fantastic film, fun, and 9 years later, and it totally holds up, like, completely. I can't, I don't see anything that sort of doesn't work in today, that worked back then. At least nothing that I can think of. But I see Derek making faces up there. So Derek, our Marvel hater, what do you think?
I'm going to stick with the format of the show, and there are some things that worked. It was the first 30 to 45 minutes were a good intro if you had not seen any of the other Marvel movies. Okay. Which I will admit, this was my first time ever watching the Avengers. This is the first time I'd ever seen the movie. I think I'd seen bits and parts of it at some point or another, but sitting down and watching the whole movie, my first time. As my wife said, it was a brainless movie that you could just sit, if you just want to sit and watch an action movie and not have to think much, that was this. Because it's not real deep at all. So, to me, that's what worked. Kate, what worked for you? What hit the target?
Yeah. So being I want to say a big Avengers fan or a big Marvel fan, although compared to Rebecca, I don't think, because I know she is so wise in the universe and she knows the universe so well. I feel I'm not, yes, ma'am. One thing that I loved is going back and rewatching it, seeing the teeny tiny Easter eggs that they put in, and how, like, I've made no secret of the fact that Thor Ragnarok is my favorite Marvel movie. It is so well done. But even seeing the relationship between Hulk and Black Widow, and in Thor Ragnarok, and how she's like, it's okay, big guy, and then watching, going back to this movie and how this is not the first. Well, I guess it is the first time they met.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is the first time they met, and just seeing how different the dynamic is. I loved that. Rebecca's right. The eye candy is fine. That's fine. I will not complain. It's also so interesting to me watching how the Marvel universe has shifted in a way in how they present the characters, in the comedy that's used. It's just, yeah, I really liked it, but I love this movie, even if it is, I don't know how you just put it, brainless. I don't know how you put it.
Yeah.
But I think these movies are so well done. And so I'm a big fan. That's it. That's all I got.
Delightfully brainless. It doesn't need to be,
as a comment to that, I think that's one of the things that Marvel has done so well, is that they take the individual movies to develop the characters, and then you have these team up movies, and you don't really get character development very much. You might, they usually a couple characters get some development. I think here Black Widow got a little bit, as you said, but you don't get a lot of it. But that's what the individual movies are for, when you have time to spend 2 hours with Iron Man or whoever. But seeing it, knowing that other character development, I think it makes it more entertaining. Now, watching it, just having not seen those other movies, I would agree you're going to mostly see it as kind of just,
it's an action flick,
a bunch. And it's an action. Yeah. It's very much a punch movie, especially the last half of it.
Yeah. So, Brian says, yeah, seeing Thor with those blonde eyebrows was still a shock. Yeah. Gina says her husband said back in 2012, the Avengers is made of awesome. Okay.
Totally.
Ryan does say he remembers when the Avengers came out, people were concerned that Marvel wouldn't be able to have so many big characters in one movie together. And how many billions of dollars later they proved that it can work?
Yep. And that it can work over and over and over again.
This was the top grossing movie of 2012. And yeah, I will agree with Ryan. The favorite part of the movie is when Hulk smashes Loki back and forth. Never forget my dad crying, laughing in the theater. That did make me laugh. Definitely.
Yeah.
So now I've know a couple ladies might not agree with this. What made Hulk smash? What was not good about the movie? And I think we're going to start this one with Pete. Pete, what didn't work in the movie?
So I think, knowing what we know now, Thor doesn't work that good, because after Ragnarok, and he's such a funny character, he's so serious in this movie, right? He's totally, I think Tony Stark calls him Shakespeare in the Park or something like that. And he's so much that character, just everything very just straight laced and everything like that. And I think at the time it worked fine, but now, knowing what we know now about the character in Ragnarok and Infinity War and all that, it's like, it's such a weird thing. And then even at the time, to me, it was very disappointing what they kind of did with Hawkeye in the movie, that they kind of, had him get hypnotized and he was just kind of this, robot for 2/3 of the movie. Because I think I always find the less superpowers a character has, the more interesting a character it is.
Mhm.
So I always find like the characters like Black Widow and Hawkeye kind of more interesting, because like, hey, you got this super power god of thunder and you're there with like a quiver of arrows shooting things. it's like, what are you thinking there, right? So but those are the only two things. I think story wise it works very, very well. Again, it gets very, the two biggest action series are kind of right in a row at the end, and so I think the last action series maybe drags a little bit. But I think overall, I think it still works. So that would be my only two comments. What about you, Sam?
So I like yours, Pete. I agree with you on everything except for about the last fight scene, because I think it's awesome, and I don't care that it's super long, because I think it's really fun. But I agree. I think the character development of Thor, we get to see him be funnier later, but maybe that's because he's just getting to know these other superheroes, and so he doesn't feel totally comfortable being his sarcastic, funny self. But my only criticisms are super minor. And one of them just has to do with casting. And it's not that I don't like this actor. I really like this actor, but I just think they never explain why Edward Norton is no longer Hulk and all of a sudden Mark Ruffalo is Hulk. And it's an unfortunate thing that they did that casting change. If I think Mark Ruffalo is wonderful in the role, I thought Ed Norton was good in the role, although that movie wasn't great. But it's disappointing to me that they didn't figure out some way of explaining that. And I don't, or redoing a Hulk movie before they, introduced Hulk into this universe. Because that was a separate standalone movie and could have stayed as a separate standalone movie. So that's the only, I would say that's the only disappointment, about the movie, and it's sort of a technical thing. The other thing is, and some people like this and some people don't, so this might be a little controversial, but the Easter egg with Thanos, looking back on it now, I get it. But at the time, I was like, what? Like, I had it was so, but a lot of the Easter eggs in the Marvel movies are like that. And so I kind of wish they had given us in that Easter egg at the end of the movie. It's not the second extra scene, it's the first extra scene. I kind of wish they'd given us a little bit more so that we could have a little bit more foreshadowing. Just seeing Thanos for a second there, not understanding anything about him, was a little bit left me not wanting more, but left me a little confused. So those are I would say my only two criticisms. And I'm just going to preview and say whatever Derek says is wrong. So, Derek, up to you.
Now, wait a minute. Okay. My first big criticism, this movie cannot stand by itself.
Wrong.
No. No. If I don't know all the different inside jokes about Iron Man and all the different character development, as I said, if you don't see those movies, nothing happens in this movie.
You just called it mindless, and
I know.
like you didn't need to know anything else, and now you're saying that it can't stand. What can it do?
But it can't stand. What can it do? Blow things up and spend lots of Bob Iger's money. And actually, it wasn't even Bob Iger's money at this point. It was Paramount's money. So,
right.
But it's the same complaint I had with Falcon and Winter Soldier. There was not really any big thing that happened. I mean, yes, Loki stole the Tesseract and it's going to set up this sequel like 9 years down the road, but that cannot be planned. Okay. Even the long-term visions, there's no way they knew that they were going to have a streaming service that was going to have a TV series.
Wrong.
So, you know what?
You really think they don't think that far in advance?
For the TV series, I really do think they didn't think that far in advance.
No, I'm sure they didn't know there was going to be a Loki
Yeah.
TV series in 9 years.
Yeah, I agree with you
progression,
there.
yes.
Yeah.
The movie progression, yes. The TV series, no.
I agree with you
So-
there. I don't know that they had that. They had the story arc for the movie sketched out, for all the movies sketched out, but I don't know that they had envisioned that it would be such a success that there would be these TV shows. I agree that those are separate, but obviously I disagree with you about whether or not it stands on its own. I think it stands on its own. It's a fun superhero movie. To Pete's point, it doesn't have the character development in this movie that the other movies have. And so if you want that additional stuff, you probably like the movie. You might like the movie more. Like, I think, and that's one of the reasons why I like the movie more. But
yeah, but I mean, having not seen the other movies, this movie does, to me, it doesn't stand on its own. Kate, how am I wrong? Everyone else is telling me how I'm wrong. How am I wrong?
Well, that's fine. See, here's the thing. Here's what's hard. It's when you know what happens. Like Sam, I love how you said this, that they gave us this tiny Thor Easter egg, or not Thor, Thanos Easter egg. I love imagining, like, can you imagine being at that table, sitting at that table saying, here's what we're going to do. But somewhere down the line, we're going to have, like, it is going to climax to a Thanos snap, or it is going to climax to like, I love that. And I would love to just be a fly on the wall in that brain dump brainstorming session. And the fact that they put those little teeny tiny things in the movies, I just love it. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I didn't like this or I didn't like that, because going back and rewatching, to me, it feels like when you're a little kid and you watch like Grease, or you watch, I don't know, a movie that like has a lot of connotations in it and they just totally go over your head. And then you go back and rewatch them as an adult and you're like, oh my gosh, they did this and they said this. That's what this felt like to me. Because Pete, to your point about Thor being very, like, being a lot more serious and stuff, I picked up on that too. And so it's hard to say what didn't work for me, because I know what happens. And so I was more intrigued with, oh my gosh, this is where the relationship between Black Widow and Hulk started. And I know what their relationship grows into. And this, yeah. So it's hard for me to say what I didn't like, because I was so enamored with how it started and where it was going, if that made any sense. Rebecca, get her, get him,
No.
get him.
The one thing so Derek, first, the Loki series is off of the timeline from when Loki disappears with the Tesseract in Endgame, not necessarily following this movie.
Correct. It happens during this movie, but the action of him disappearing, we don't see in this movie. We don't see it till Endgame. Yes.
Right.
But there's a timeline break towards the end of this movie that occurs in Endgame. But I think they'll reshow it at the beginning of Loki, I would assume.
His last line in this is the first line in Loki. So, and they've shown that. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, Rebecca. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to. That was
Okay.
I had to say that, and I knew I was going to forget it, so I texted it to Kate, but I didn't actually send it. I just like typed it in. So there's really nothing wrong with the movie. I really do think that, like you said earlier, if you just wanted to watch the Avengers, you could just go in and watch the Avengers. If you had never seen anything else before, you wouldn't be confused on what's happening. The fun part for people like me and Sam and Willie and other people who have watched all of the movies is that when you go back and watch these again, you're just like, it's nostalgic, because you're kind of just like watching and you're like, dang, like this is so long ago that they are just meeting for the first time. Like, these people spend years with each other, like battling, and all these movies have come out and all the things that they've gone through together and stuff, and this is the first time that they're ever meeting each other. We're just now being introduced to Bruce Banner or MCU's version and stuff, and it's like just very nostalgic. I will take Pete's comment that Thor being the serious man that he is in this movie is probably the only thing, only because we know who he is in future films and stuff. That's, again, the only reason that I have a problem would be that I didn't get to have the fun back and forth between Hulk and Thor that I love so much in Ragnarok and the rest of the series and stuff. I think Chris Evans' humanity didn't come out a lot in this one either. I was not shocked, but I was pulled back into Falcon and the Winter Soldier where he used a gun. Chris Evans is using a weapon inside this movie, whereas he in Falcon and Winter Soldier was known as only using his shield, never carrying a gun. He's not a weapon. He's just a defense mechanism. But in this movie, he was using a machine rifle of some sort to fight in battle and stuff. And so that kind of was like, oh, we spoke so highly and so horribly about Kroger Cap because he was using a gun that now we're, here he is doing this here. But those are the only two things, not even problems with the movie, but just inconsistencies with other stuff that we've talked about in previous episodes. So that's all I have.
Yeah. And I want to give Derek's comment one piece of agreement. It is not as strong a movie if you haven't seen the other movies. I even think of like the Phil Coulson character, right? I think he's in both Iron Man movies and the Thor movie. I don't think he's in the Captain America movie because that all takes place in the past. But so you've already had, several movies with that character. He's actually in a lot, I think, of the Thor movie. And, so to have him introduced here, if this is all you've seen of him, you don't really have much affection for the character. And so when he gets killed off, you're like, well, why does everybody care? And whereas if you've seen those other movies and this was at a point where you only had to really see 3 or 4 movies. Now, when you get to Endgame, you have to have watched 18 movies or whatever.
Hey, don't worry. Phil's not dead if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, yeah, right. he gets kicked out of the cinematic universe and into the television universe.
Yeah.
But so I would agree that, if you hadn't seen the previous movies and you didn't really know the characters, it is more of a brainless, shoot 'em up, beat 'em up, whatever you want to call it. But I still think it's a very well done brainless movie. So,
but this is the movie. If somebody had not seen anything else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they wanted just a single movie to watch, right? I would tell them to watch either this movie or Black Panther, because both of these movies do stand on their own, or can stand on their own. I agree. You appreciate them more when you've seen the background, you've seen other movies, but these are both, fun, fantastic movies where you don't need the background. I think something like Thor Ragnarok, which is also a fantastic movie. I know it's Kate's favorite. That one, I really don't think you want to watch without having a lot of background. You really need to watch a lot of the other movies to understand the characters and why they're where they are and all of that. So there are some movies that stand better on their own in the MCU than others. And I think this is one of them, with the caveat that you'll enjoy it more if you are, if you've watched the other movies before.
Ryan says best thing to happen to Thor was Taika Waititi.
Yes,
Taika Waititi.
correct.
Yep.
Good job.
Help. Who?
That's the director.
He's the director of
Okay.
Ragnarok, and they wrapped yesterday on Love and Thunder. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Taika tweeted that.
He was the voice of Korg. Oh wait, have you seen?
Yeah.
Eric, have you seen Thor Ragnarok? Oh, okay. Korg is the best character in the whole movie, and he's the voice of Korg.
Okay.
Yeah. Korg is hilarious. Such a good character.
Yeah.
Commenting as the plus platoon, but we know it's Brian. So John Wick, Fast and Furious, and other action franchises rarely have deep character development in any single movie. Still fun to watch. Action movies, not dramas. There are people that like action movies. There are people that don't like action movies. So
Sure.
I get and I'm in the second category. Action movies have never been my thing. So which is why I love our group here, is because we don't all agree. Some of us can agree with others more than others. So
I'm not a very big action person either. I will admit to it that I only have seen the Marvel movies because Willie is very into them, and we have nothing else to do during quarantine, so I'm going to start watching them now, and that was when it all started. And so in chronological order rather than movie release order is how I watched them, and actually got started with all of the cinematic universe. And it really helped if you're someone like Derek who has not seen the rest of the movies, understand what's happening. They always talk about New York, which is in the first Avengers, right? So if you watch all of the Captain America movies, they're going to talk about New York. You watch about any of the Thors, they're going to talk about what happened in New York and other cities where these major battles have happened. And so for me, it was a lot easier to just watch them chronologically in a timeline versus the release date order to really actually know what's happening.
I will let everyone know that I decided today and started today, well, after I watched the movie for this, that I will be watching all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe television shows and movies in chronological order, starting with the very first Captain America.
That's
so I
a
can
lot.
keep you all updated on my journey. But I started the Captain America movie tonight.
Carol Danvers. I can think of her real name,
Captain
but not
Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I thought she was the first one, but is she second?
She comes. It goes
she's the
Captain
next
America. It goes Captain America, and then Agent Carter season 1, Agent Carter season 2, Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the first Captain America takes place in the 40s, right? So,
Brian also says, like, the comic books always helps to read them all, but any one book can be entertaining. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. So yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, and Brian says Kate has a lot to watch now. Yes, she does.
That's a lot, Kate. I know other folks who've done it. I've never done it in that order. I watched them in release order, and now I just jump around to my favorites, right? Whenever I am, hankering for a good action movie or a good backstory, or depending upon what I'm looking for. But I have not watched all of the TV. I've not watched all of Agent Carter, and I've not watched all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they don't, it's those, not all the TV shows fit as nicely as the movies do, but that's a huge undertaking. I'm interested if you're going to go to some of the other Marvel TV shows, like
the old animated cartoon ones.
No, I'm talking like Luke Cage. Some
Luke
of the
Cage,
ones like on
Jessica
Netflix.
oh my gosh,
Punisher,
yeah, you're going.
Logan Dagger, all of them.
Because I haven't seen all of them, but Luke Cage is an excellent one. Jessica Jones is
really
a great
good.
one. So
I'll keep you posted, Sam. I'll keep you posted.
I'll say I was a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to a degree. I never finished it, but it's very inconsistent.
Yes, agreed.
And Willie says TV shows are not considered Marvel canon.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
Watch the TV shows if you want, but know that it may not be consistent. Okay, so to wrap up the Avengers, Pixie dust rating, Kate. Again, we do it a Pixie out of 5. How many cups of Pixie dust are you giving the Avengers?
4.
Okay.
4.5. I don't have anything wrong with it. I would give it a solid 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna do 4.5 just because it's not Endgame or Infinity War, but it's amazing. So.
Yeah, there are Marvel movies I like a little bit better than this, so I'm going to give it 4.5 so that I can save the 5 for the 3 or there's probably 4 or 5 that I think are better than this. But yeah, 4.5.
I want to give it a 10. No, I'm giving it a 5. I love this movie. My criticisms are super nitpicky ones. I just think it's a fantastic movie. And it's tied for my top 2. So, Derek?
2.5. But I will say I'll watch this before I'll watch Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Yes. It's much better than
different.
6 hours versus
they're different.
2.5.
Yeah, they're just
this
different
is what
animals.
Falcon and Winter Soldier should have been. This is the length it should have been.
No.
So
I can't see how a major destruction of an entire city is nothing happening in the movie. Then,
because they
Falcon
fix
and Winter
it like
Soldier
30
just
seconds
talking
later.
about racial discrimination.
They don't though, Derek. They don't fix New York. There's.
No.
Which
That's what's
reminds
always
me, Kate,
so
you gotta
funny.
watch the one shots too.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, she has a lot of TV watching to do.
There's a couple of one shots about there were these for a while. They were doing these little 5-10 minute Marvel shows or whatever. I don't know. They were released on DVD and stuff, and a couple of them are around the cleanup of New York after it got destroyed. So
Can we pull up Ryan's comment that Daredevil is the best and Iron Fist is terrible? Ryan, agree with you that Daredevil is the best. I haven't watched Iron Fist, but I love Daredevil. And the guy who plays the friend in Daredevil, it was also from the original Mighty Ducks and was in the cameo. Yeah. So it's real fun to see. We do see, crossover in the different in some of our shows. It's really fun to watch. Yeah. And Willie says, but they're all great. He's finished them all.
Except Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. final season. But that was a great segue, Sam, because this is not the only thing we watched this week. The Mighty Ducks Game Changers finale was this week. Now, before we go any farther, we have got to give a shout out to Pete. Okay? Pete called the end of the series where there was the hockey game or some kind of a contest for the name the Mighty Ducks. Pete totally called it. So congratulations, Pete. Gold star for this one. Yeah.
Gold star.
Nothing. I win nothing. But well,
you get to be right.
Yeah, and the reason I had said that was because why are you calling a show the Mighty Ducks when it's not about the Mighty Ducks? And that's obviously I didn't know anything ahead of time, but I was speculating that maybe they play for the name at the end and they become the Mighty Ducks. And even when I said it seemed a little ridiculous, but that's what happened.
So for the finale, what was the finale? Quacking or was it just lacking? Sam, what did you think of the finale?
I'm going to say quacking. Now, was it a perfect series or perfect whole season? No. But this finale was quacking because the one thing that all of us didn't want to happen didn't happen, right? They didn't just win because this is the team that comes from the very bottom. We all said we would be disappointed if they won the championship, meaning the tournament, right? And it ended a little weirdly because they still did beat the new Ducks. But it was not in the tournament setting. It was, in a game, as Pete said, for the name. And, they had to forfeit their last game because of Sophie's injury. I really liked the way that the team rallied around Sophie. I thought that was a really wonderful thing to see. Kids making a personal sacrifice to protect their friend from being injured and potentially having to have surgery on her knee if something went wrong. You don't always see that kind of empathy from people in general and from kids who want to win, right? Like, so in youth sports, you do see a lot of competitiveness like you have on the bad Ducks team, right? Or the evil Ducks team. And it was really nice to see sportsmanship and friendship and empathy winning the day in this series, or at least in the season finale. So I would say absolutely quacking. Is it cheesy? Yes.
Yeah.
Was it fun? Yes.
Yeah.
Derek?
Yeah, totally quacking. I went quackers for this show. I was smiling the entire length of the finale. I rolled my eyes a little bit at how fast they were progressing through the tournament, but I knew it was to set up that thing at the end. As she said, was it totally predictable? Absolutely. The whole, turning in, laying down their hockey sticks. Anyone remember the old movie Rudy? About the equipment manager at Notre Dame who, and near the end of that, every single player.
Movie.
That's another story. Wait. We have a celebrity with us, apparently.
I was at Notre Dame Stadium when they were filming that final scene, so I'm in the crowd scene of Rudy.
I am upset that I am just now learning this.
Old.
I am upset.
Oh my God. Yeah. Now I can say I know someone in the movie Rudy.
That's right.
Yeah. But they all, for those.
But yes. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to.
and lay down their jerseys, every single member on the team, have Rudy take my spot, have Rudy take my spot. And that's totally what it reminded me of. You knew they were going to end with the flying V. And the whole pond hockey, or the whole, doing the eyes closed shot again, as we've kind of discussed off camera, everyone else just standing there would not happen. Yeah. The first time, maybe it's what are they doing? But,
Totally.
everyone watches tape. So a couple things I wish would have happened. I kind of wish they would have kept the Don't Bother's name, or have the Duck, instead of a District 5 jersey, wear a Don't Bother's jersey. So that would be a way to bring it in. And I still think Disney is totally missing out on marketing here. I would buy both a Don't Bother's jersey and a Green Mighty Ducks jersey. So, Kate, I think I know where you're going, but is it quacking or lacking?
It's lacking. I know, it's lacking. It's so lacking. I don't know what I wanted, but this wasn't it. And I'm so glad. Rebecca agreed with me. This isn't this. I don't know what I wanted. I don't know what I was expecting, but this wasn't it. This was, the realistic side of my brain, even though this entire show is not realistic, is like, okay, you can't just take the Duck's name. You think
it's unrealistic now, Kate?
I know, but
who are you and what have you done with Kate? I mean,
come on. I just, if I live for Nick, he is the best part of the whole show when they're laying down the sticks and he goes, yeah, for those two as well, them too. He made the whole show. And do I love the fact that all of them laid down their sticks and rallied around Sophie? Yes. Did I love the part where she called the guy over and she kissed him and then he's going away and he goes, so we're doing that now. I mean, that made me laugh out loud. Really glad that they didn't make Bombay and Alex kiss.
Thank you.
Really glad they didn't do that. But yeah, it was lacking for me. I kind of wanted him to lose, and I kind of wanted him to have to start from ground zero. And I get that they forfeited. I don't know what it is I was wanting, but this wasn't it. And I love this show. You guys know how much I love this show, but it was lacking for me. Rebecca, go ahead.
It was lacking for me. No one's shocked. I was not very intrigued from the movie or from the beginning of this show. Kate, you kind of put it perfectly into words. I don't know what I really wanted from the finale. All of the predictions that we had made last week, I feel would have been better than what actually happened. Going into this final episode, the tournament had not even started, and then they were just oh, you win by 4, oh, you win by 2, oh, you land, and every single game. They never had a game where it was okay, this one's tough too, we have, it was just zooming through. And then it was all of a sudden they're at the end and they just forfeited so quickly. You'd think that there was some type of, oh, well, let's, they bended the rules for Bombay. Let's see if we can get them to kind of manipulate, there was just nothing. They were just so fine with, none of it was realistic. And I think that that's obviously the overarching theme of the whole show. But I don't know. For me, it just wasn't it. I'm not sad that the show's over, but I'm not happy the show's over. I'll keep watching it if we keep talking about it, but it's really not, and it never was. It never was the one that I went out of my way for and was eager to watch. I always wanted to do Big Shot or Bad Batch or something else first, just because to me this was just a hockey show. It was okay, but yeah, as far as finales are concerned, it was too fast and too everything's perfect the way it was supposed to be and wonderful and yeah. Pete?
I'm loving Willie's comment, but I won't bring it up. I won't has to bring it up until Pete gets to give his answer.
Oh, I'll bring it up. Don't bother listening to these two. The show rocked. Yeah.
Willie.
Yeah, go Willie.
I wouldn't want to be on that couch when they were watching that show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Or in their apartment
in the
after,
couch. Yeah.
or after the show. Rebecca's gonna have words.
We actually watched it when we were at our tower studio this past weekend, and after that I was exhausted, and so we just watched it. And I think I was more tired, just obviously from park days and traveling and stuff. So I laughed a lot. I remember laughing a lot during it, but I don't remember a thing that happened. And I think that's to me why I'm like, okay, well, obviously it wasn't that good if I'm not like, this is amazing because of this. So
I'm on the side of Sam and Derek. I thought it was Quacking. There's some really stupid things in this episode, and I do also agree with what Rebecca said. Is I felt like especially the last episode, which almost nothing happened in, and suddenly this episode, tons happened in. So I think they could have evened that out a little bit.
Totally agree.
But I like, again, they didn't win the championship. I actually would have liked to have them had maybe forfeited or lost out a little earlier. And they still could have done that and still had the challenge at the end and worked it out that way. But I did like that. Okay, hey, because it wasn't the Ducks it wasn't the Don't Bother the challenge of the Ducks. The Ducks were like, hey, we want you to go away, and we'll play you if you can beat us.
Yeah.
If you lose, you're going to go away. And then they said, well, if we win, you got to give us the name. And they're overconfident enough. And then when they win, the coach, of course, because you would have known this, is basically going to back out of it, right? He's like, we're not giving you the name. And then in the end,
Stephanie,
Alex's boss, steps in and says, nope, I'm on the board. You got the name. And that past episode where they kind of became friends. So, I mean, it's silly, but I don't know. I really enjoyed the series. I look at it as, do I want another season of this show or not? And this is one I want to see. I'd love to see another season. I laughed in every single episode, and that doesn't always happen. So I want more.
Ladies, rebuttal.
I think
I just want to say I did not get a shout out when I called within the first 2 episodes that Sharon was the power broker.
We
did.
We gave you credit.
Yeah, we totally did.
Gave you credit.
Strike that from the record. Never mind.
It is so stricken, Kate.
I was gonna. Man, I forgot. Sorry.
Okay.
You don't want to. So what does everybody else think? You want another season, or you don't want another season?
Well,
that's okay. That's what it was.
Okay.
No, because I just don't know what is the next story. Like, what are they trying to do?
I do.
They need to bring back Charlie and give us the background on Bombay. What happened with Bombay and Charlie's mom,
or all of a sudden these kids are going to be going to high school. You start the college recruiting setup, and the whole. That's another way for Alex to go whole psycho mom again. Willie says, teared up a bit during the finale. What a finish! Give us a season 2. Actually, seen stuff where they weren't sure what they were going to do until they saw how it was received, and now it's oh my gosh, we got to get these kids filmed for a season 2 because they keep growing.
Yeah, I thought that this show could end. They could end the series here. I think they set it up exactly that way so that they could either end it here or that they could bring it back for a season 2, giving that option if the reception was good. But like I said, I think we need to see Charlie Conway come back in some capacity, which is one of my favorite actors. Okay. And we need to know what happened.
Needs to come back, and he's talked about he's going to come back. Goldberg needs to come back.
Goldberg is probably not going to come back. He's been through rehab a couple of times.
Oh yeah, okay.
So,
but anyway, the Kenan Thompson character has said, "I am back if they do season 2."
Yeah.
He's already said he's going to do it.
Yeah,
So,
there's a few actors that couldn't do it because of the quarantine rules that they had in place. They had to quarantine for 2 weeks before and then quarantine while on the set filming. And so there are a few actors that because of other things they were filming, like Kenan Thompson being on SNL and I'm forgetting his name, but Charlie Conway, Pacey Witter from Dawson's Creek. Why am I forgetting his name? Joshua Jackson. Thank you. He had a brand new baby, and so he couldn't quarantine and all of that. So yeah, there were other projects that some of the actors had that were a conflict or other personal circumstances. So I think they will.
Okay. Brian from DCO Do says they need to stop recycling the trick shots and plays. If you do it once, you can't do it again. Stop the blindfold hockey thing. Totally agree on that.
Yeah, and the pancake shot.
Yeah, a lot of the
flying V.
Yes, that part that was they needed.
Thing is that part you
can do that.
Yeah,
because it wasn't this season, so they probably would have had film on it. Lots of comments in the background. We've established that. Pete, did you go to Notre Dame?
I did not go to Notre Dame. I went to one Notre Dame football game, and it just happened they were filming Rudy during halftime, and they asked us if we wanted to stay in the stands and be in the movie, and I was like, and my buddy and I were, my friend's sister was going to Notre Dame. That's how we got the tickets.
Okay.
Cool.
And Gina says Minnesota needs a Don't Bothers team. Yeah, rename the Stars the Wild. Sorry. Okay, they were originally the Stars before they moved to Dallas. So that's how Joey can capitalize on it. So yeah, that was the end of Mighty Ducks. Be interesting to see what they come up with next week. Pete, what have we got next week?
We have the, I guess, public premiere of Raya and the Last Dragon this week. It was originally available on Disney Plus. I'm not going to remember the exact date, but in March, you could have either rented it or you could see it in the theaters. My family actually went to see it in the theaters, but my daughter really liked the movie a lot. She especially loves the soundtrack. She immediately came home and got it up on her phone so she could listen to the soundtrack. And so we're going to probably watch it again this weekend. And I think the whole team's going to watch it for next week's episode. This is our first new Disney movie. So I'm looking forward to it because no spoilers, but I enjoyed it. It's, it's kind of a South Asian fable. There's no really particular link to a real world legend or anything like that. But it's a fun story, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again, actually. So
I'm really excited to see it. I've been waiting. I did not pay the premium on Disney Plus, and I have not seen it in the movie theater, so I'm really excited. And it comes out on Friday. Is that right?
Comes out this Friday, yes.
Friday. Okay. And so we'll be talking about it on next week's show.
Yep.
Now, you're probably going, guys, why aren't you talking about Loki? It comes out next Wednesday. We are going to talk about Loki the week after the episode premieres, mainly because it is on Wednesday. We have some people that live on the West Coast, and unlike the teachers, actually work, so them getting off at 5 and having to go at 6, they're not going to be able to watch it. So we will be talking about Loki the week after it comes, and we will also not watch the new episode before we film this show. So that's how Loki's going to work. We will be interspersing Luna in there. No, sorry, Luca in there. Other movies that come out, we will be setting in there along with Loki, but we will be focusing on Loki a lot. So that being said,
I think also when we get to the finales of some of the other shows like Big Shot and High School Musical, we'll have a little talk on.
Definitely.
I think when we get to that last episode, we're going to break in and talk about those shows again.
Yeah.
So Raya next week on our show, we'll be talking about Raya next week. And then the following week, we'll be talking about the first episode of Loki.
Correct. So with that being said, guys, thanks for joining us. Love having you around. If you have suggestions, please email plusplatoon@gmail.com. We've had a couple suggestions already about a documentary that's going to be coming up. So we're going to put that in the rotation. And other stuff you want us to watch. Let us know. Let us know if you like us. Let us know if you don't like us. Let us know how I'm wrong again.
Always.
Do you like us watching
and Kate and Rebecca tonight.
I was going to say, do you like us watching really old stuff like Peter Pan or not as old stuff like Avengers?
Let us know if you want to know how Kate's Marvel Cinematic Journey is going.
Yeah.
Or why we're all going to start calling her Shark Bait. So, that being said, we're on Facebook at Plus Platoon, Facebook.com plus Platoon, YouTube.com/Plus Platoon, Instagram, Twitter. Look for us on Plus Platoon on social media. We're there. We will see everybody next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Plus Platoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.